The observation deck of the UNS Horizon offered a breathtaking view of the Valkyrie homeworld. Ethan Mercer stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the blue-green planet grow larger as they approached. After 20 years as a diplomat, this assignment represented the pinnacle of his career. First contact with an advanced alien civilization. "Nervous?" asked Linda Carter, his deputy. Ethan smiled. "Excited. This is what we've trained for." The Valkyrie had been discovered only 6 months ago. Initial drone communications suggested they were peaceful, with technology slightly more advanced than humanity's. This face-to-face meeting would establish the foundation for future relations between their species. Captain Roy Daniels entered the observation deck. "We're being hailed, Mr. Mercer. The Valkyrie delegation is ready to receive you." The shuttle trip to the surface was smooth. Ethan reviewed his notes one final time, focusing on the cultural briefings. The Valkyrie were tall, slender beings with iridescent skin that seemed to shift colors with their moods. Their society valued precision and order. "Remember," Ethan told his team of 5 diplomats, "no sudden movements. Their visual processing is different from ours." The shuttle landed in a massive crystal structure that served as the Valkyrie Diplomatic Center. As the doors opened, Ethan's team was greeted by 6 Valkyrie officials. Their skin glowed with a soft blue light that pulsed gently. The lead Valkyrie stepped forward. "I am Zithkor, voice of the consensus. We welcome humans to our world." Ethan bowed slightly. "I am Ethan Mercer, representing the United Earth government. We come in peace and friendship." The meeting began well. The Valkyrie led them to a circular chamber with a central platform. Ethan presented gifts, artworks, music, and a data crystal containing information about Earth's cultures. The Valkyrie seemed pleased, their skin shifting to pleasant green tones. Then came the ceremonial signing of the first contact protocol. As Ethan stepped onto the platform, he noticed the Valkyrie delegates exchanging glances. Their skin shifted to a deep red. "Is something wrong?" Ethan asked. Zithkor approached him. "We have studied your species carefully. Your history is filled with violence and conquest. We've evolved beyond that," Ethan replied calmly. "Like all species, we've made mistakes, but we've learned from them." "A predator cannot change its nature," Zithkor said. "The consensus has decided. Humanity presents an unacceptable risk to galactic stability." Before Ethan could respond, the platform beneath him began to glow. Intense heat erupted from the floor. Ethan screamed as flames engulfed his legs. "Security!" Linda shouted, rushing forward only to be blocked by Valkyrie guards. Ethan collapsed, his diplomatic uniform melting into his skin. The Valkyrie made no move to help him as he writhed in agony. "This one is purified," Zithkor announced. "The contamination must not spread." The human security team finally broke through, firing stun weapons at the Valkyrie. In the confusion, they managed to evacuate Ethan and the rest of the team. Back on the UNS Horizon, medical staff worked desperately to save Ethan. His burns covered over 60% of his body, and the unknown Valkyrie technology complicated treatment. As Ethan's vital signs failed, Captain Daniels sent an emergency transmission to Earth. The attack had been broadcast across all frequencies by the Valkyrie themselves, apparently as a warning. President Olivia Warren watched the recording in the White House Situation Room, her face grim. This was deliberate, not a misunderstanding. "They meant it as a message," General Frank Miller said. "They're declaring war." 3 hours later, Ethan Mercer was pronounced dead. By then, the news had spread across Earth and its colonies. Humanity had extended a hand in friendship, and in return, they had received only fire. The war clock had begun ticking. President Olivia Warren rubbed her temples as the emergency session of the Earth Unity Council entered its 5th hour. The massive circular chamber, usually a place of measured debate, now buzzed with angry voices and demands for immediate action. "The Valkyrie must pay for this atrocity," shouted the representative from Mars Colony, slamming his fist on the table. They murdered our diplomat in cold blood. Warren studied the faces around her. 73 representatives from Earth nations and off-world colonies, all waiting for her leadership. The weight of 4 billion lives pressed down on her shoulders. "We have confirmation," said Defense Secretary Eric Black, standing to address the council. "The Valkyrie government has issued a statement. They're calling the burning of Ethan Mercer a necessary purification ritual and demanding that humans withdraw from the Proxima, Tau Ceti, and Epsilon Eridani systems immediately." The chamber erupted in outrage. "Those systems were settled decades ago," said the Australian representative. "Hundreds of thousands of colonists live there." Warren raised her hand for silence. "What do our intelligence services tell us about Valkyrie capabilities?" Admiral Sophia Jones stepped forward, her face grim. "Madam President, we've analyzed data collected by the UNS Horizon before it was ordered to retreat. The Valkyrie possess technology slightly more advanced than our own in several key areas, particularly energy weapons and biological computing. However, we believe our fleet has advantages in speed and defensive systems." "And the diplomatic options?" Warren asked, turning to Linda Carter, who had survived the attack on Ethan Mercer. Linda's eyes were hollow with grief and lack of sleep. "Madam President, all attempts at communication have been rejected. More concerning is what we've learned from analyzing previous transmissions. The Valkyrie knew about us long before we discovered them. They'd been studying us, preparing for this confrontation." Warren nodded slowly. "So this wasn't a cultural misunderstanding or an isolated incident?" "No, ma'am," Linda replied. "We've recovered data showing they've been developing weapons specifically designed to target human physiology for at least 3 years. They see us as a threat to their expansion plans." The council chamber grew quiet as the implications sank in. Warren stood, her decision made. "I've listened to all sides. While I deeply value peaceful resolution, the evidence is clear that the Valkyrie planned this attack and have been preparing for conflict with humanity. Their demands for withdrawal from established colonies are unacceptable." She walked to the center of the chamber. "As of this moment, I am authorizing a military response. Not out of vengeance, but out of necessity. The Valkyrie have shown their intentions clearly. They will not stop with Ethan Mercer. They will not stop with 3-star systems." The vote was nearly unanimous. Only the representatives from Nordic Union and New Gandhi Colony voted against military action, instead proposing continued diplomatic efforts. After the session, Warren met privately with her military advisors. "How quickly can we mobilize?" she asked. General Miller brought up a holographic display of human space. "The 3rd and 5th fleets can reach the border within 2 weeks. The rest will take longer to redeploy from their current positions. And civilian evacuations from the threatened systems. Already underway, Madam President, but it will take months to completely evacuate those colonies. Most civilians are choosing to stay and fight." Warren stared at the star map, at the blinking lights representing billions of human lives. "Send a message to the Valkyrie," she said finally. "Tell them we reject their ultimatum. Tell them we know they've been planning this. And tell them that while humanity desires peace, we will defend ourselves with every resource at our disposal." As her advisors filed out, Warren looked at the photo of Ethan Mercer on her desk. A good man burned alive for the crime of extending friendship. The first interstellar war in human history had begun. Captain Lisa Donovan stood on the bridge of the UNS Intrepid, watching as hundreds of ships gathered around Jupiter's orbital stations. The massive warship hummed with activity as crew members prepared for departure. In her 15 years of service, Lisa had never seen such a massive deployment. "All systems are green, Captain," reported Commander Paul Wright, her executive officer. "The fleet will be ready to jump in 6 hours." Lisa nodded. "And the Artemis system?" "Online and calibrating. It's the most advanced combat eye ever deployed." A soft blue light pulsed from the central console as a holographic figure appeared, a woman in classical Greek armor. "Artemis Combat Coordination System is at 94% operational capacity, Captain," the AI reported. I am analyzing all available data on Valkyrie technology and developing optimal battle strategies. Lisa studied the hologram. The military had fast-tracked Artemis after the first reports of Ethan Mercer's death. An AI that could coordinate hundreds of ships simultaneously might give humanity the edge it needed. "Show me the fleet status," Lisa ordered. A three-dimensional map appeared, showing 5 battle groups forming near Jupiter. Green icons represented ships ready for combat. Yellow showed those still taking on supplies or personnel. Only a handful glowed red, vessels with technical issues. "The largest military mobilization in human history," Paul whispered. 142 capital ships, over 300 support vessels. "And still possibly not enough," Lisa replied quietly. On the other side of the solar system, Intelligence Officer Alan Griffin moved carefully through the data archives of Ganymede Base. He hadn't slept in 36 hours, sustained only by stimulants and determination. While the military prepared their weapons, Alan hunted for something more valuable: information. "You're still here?" asked Dr. Kelly Brown, entering the dimly lit room. "You need rest, Alan." Alan shook his head, eyes fixed on the screens surrounding him. "I'm close to something. The Valkyrie transmissions we intercepted. There's a pattern I'm starting to see." Kelly placed a coffee beside him. "What kind of pattern?" "Their communication contains regular gaps at specific frequencies. At first, I thought it was just how their language works, but now..." He pulled up a spectral analysis. "These aren't gaps. They're thermal signatures. The Valkyrie communicate partially through heat patterns." Alan's eyes widened suddenly. "That's it. Their weakness." He began typing frantically, pulling data from multiple sources. "Their ships use biological components that are extremely sensitive to temperature fluctuations. If we can disrupt their thermal regulation systems..." "You need to report this immediately," Kelly said. Within hours, Alan's discovery reached Fleet Command. Engineers began immediate modifications to human weapon systems to target the thermal vulnerabilities. Meanwhile, across human space, civilians prepared for war. In the threatened colonies of Proxima Centauri, evacuation ships departed hourly, carrying the young and elderly to safety. Those who remained transformed mining equipment into defensive positions and converted agricultural facilities to produce supplies for the coming conflict. At the New Geneva Military Academy on Earth, Commander Kevin Foster addressed the graduating class of Marines. "You're deploying 3 months early," he told the solemn-faced recruits. "I won't lie to you. This enemy is unlike any humanity has faced. They don't want our resources or our territory. They want us gone. Intelligence suggests they view our very existence as an evolutionary threat." He paced before them. "But humanity has survived ice ages, plagues, and our own destructive tendencies. We've rebuilt from ashes before. The Valkyrie think they understand us because they've observed us. But they don't understand one critical thing. Humans are at their best when the situation is at its worst." In orbit above Earth, President Warren made a final inspection of the flagship UNS Defender before it departed. Admiral Jones escorted her through the massive vessel. "The fleet will reach Proxima in 11 days, the Admiral explained. "Operation Thunderbolt will commence immediately upon arrival." Warren nodded gravely. "God help us all." The war for humanity's survival had begun. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Proxima system, a wall of steel and firepower moving in perfect formation. From the bridge of the U.S. Intrepid, Captain Lisa Donovan watched as the tactical display filled with hundreds of friendly markers. "Artemis, status report," she ordered. The AI's hologram appeared beside her. "All ships have arrived successfully. No detection of Valkyrie sensors yet. We have achieved surprise, Captain." Operation Thunderbolt had begun. The plan was simple but bold. Strike the Valkyrie forces in Proxima before they could fully mobilize. Demonstrating that humans would not surrender their colonies. "Launch reconnaissance drones," Lisa commanded. "I want eyes on every part of this system." Within minutes, the data began flowing in. The Valkyrie had established a forward base on Proxima, the colony's main planet. Their ships, organic-looking vessels that seemed to pulse with internal light, orbited in defensive patterns. "Count 37 enemy vessels," reported Paul Wright. "Mostly lighter classes, but 3 capital ships present." Lisa studied the enemy positions. "They weren't expecting us so soon." Artemis, implement Alan Griffin's targeting protocols. Throughout the fleet, weapons systems adjusted to target the thermal weaknesses Alan had discovered. Modified missiles and energy weapons calibrated to disrupt the temperature-sensitive biological systems of the Valkyrie ships. "All ships, this is Captain Donovan. Execute attack pattern Delta. Remember your training. Remember Ethan Mercer." The human fleet accelerated forward, breaking into 3 coordinated battle groups. The Valkyrie responded quickly, their ships forming into a defensive posture that radiated outward from their 3 largest vessels. "They're using some kind of biological communication," said Communications Officer Ryan Peters. "It's faster than our standard channels." "But not faster than Artemis," Lisa replied. "Execute." The AI coordinated the human response with microsecond precision. As the Valkyrie shifted to counter one group, another would strike from an unexpected vector. The space between the fleets filled with energy beams, missiles, and defensive countermeasures. The first Valkyrie ship erupted in a cascade of blue-green flame as its thermal regulation system catastrophically failed. Then another. The modified human weapons were working exactly as Alan had predicted. But the Valkyrie were adaptable. Their ships began emitting clouds of biological material that absorbed the thermal weapons. "They're learning," Lisa murmured. "Artemis, adjust firing solutions." On the surface of Proxima, Commander Kevin Foster led the first wave of Marines toward the Valkyrie ground base. Dropships had inserted his forces under cover of the space battle above. "Move fast and quiet," he ordered through his tactical helmet. "We need those communication arrays intact." His team of 40 specialized Marines advanced through the rocky terrain. The colony's original inhabitants had been evacuated from this region weeks earlier, leaving only the Valkyrie occupation force. As they approached the alien structure, a strange spiraling building that seemed grown rather than constructed, Kevin spotted movement. "Contact front," he whispered. "Hold positions." The Valkyrie ground troops were tall, slender figures with skin that shifted colors as they moved. They carried weapons that looked like extensions of their own bodies. "Remember your training," Kevin told his team. "Their vision tracks movement better than stationary objects. Move in alternating patterns." The Marines implemented their practice tactics, creating confusion in the Valkyrie defensive line. Half the team would freeze completely while the others advanced in short bursts, then switch roles. When they were 50 meters from the structure, Kevin gave the signal to attack. Marines opened fire with specialized stun weapons designed to overwhelm Valkyrie sensory systems. The battle was brief but intense. Within minutes, Kevin's team had secured the outpost. As his technical specialists began downloading Valkyrie data, Kevin examined a wall covered in heat-sensitive displays. "Command, this is Foster. You need to see this," he said into his communicator, staring at what appeared to be detailed plans for systematic attacks on all human colonies. In space, the battle reached its climax. The human fleet had destroyed or disabled 23 Valkyrie vessels at the cost of 8 of their own. "They're retreating," Paul announced as the remaining Valkyrie ships accelerated away from Proxima. Lisa didn't smile. This was only the beginning, but humanity had proven something vital today. They would not go quietly into extinction. "Secure the system," she ordered, "and prepare for their counterattack." Dr. Nicole Hartman stared at the tissue sample under her microscope, barely noticing the distant rumble of explosions that occasionally shook her laboratory. 3 weeks had passed since Operation Thunderbolt, and the war had spread across human space like wildfire. "Another attack?" asked her assistant, Sam Miller, looking up from his workstation. "Orbital bombardment," Nicole replied calmly. The shields are holding. The research facility on Ta City had become a frontline position after the Valkyrie counterattack began. Nickel had been studying Valkyrie biology since the first tissue samples were recovered from the Battle of Proxima. Time was running out as casualties mounted on both sides. "Look at this," she said, stepping back from the microscope. "Their cellular structure changes in response to thermal variations. It's like their entire biology is built around heat sensitivity." Sand joined her, peering at the sample. Could this explain why they attacked Ethan Mercer? Some kind of thermal response. Nickel's eyes widened. Of course, human body temperature must appear as a form of communication to them. What if Ethan's normal body temperature was interpreted as a threat? She rushed to her computer and began compiling data on Valkyrie communication patterns. If she was right, the entire war might be based on a fundamental misunderstanding. In orbit above Ta City, Captain Lisa Donovan's fleet was in serious trouble. The Valkyrie had adapted to human tactics, developing counters to the thermal weapons that had worked so well at Proxima. "Shields down to 30% on decks 5 through 12, reported Paul Wright, his face streaked with blood from a console explosion. "We've lost the Dauntless and Orion." Lisa gripped her chair as the Intrepid shuddered under enemy fire. "Have the Artemis coordinate retreat position beta. We need to regroup." "Captain," called Communications Officer Ryan Peters, "we're receiving an urgent transmission from the research facility. Priority 1. "Put it through," Lisa ordered. Dr. Nickel Hartman's face appeared on screen. "Captain, I've made a breakthrough. The Valkyrie don't just use heat for communication. They interpret all heat patterns as communication. When Ethan Mercer approached their leaders, his body temperature was likely perceived as a threat display." Lisa processed this information. "You're saying this entire war is because they misinterpreted our body heat?" "Exactly. And I think I can modify our communication systems to transmit in their thermal language. We might be able to establish real communication." Hope flickered in Lisa's eyes. "How long?" "I need 3 days. But I need protection. The Valkyrie are targeting this facility." "You'll have it," Lisa promised. "Artemis, recalculate defensive positions. Priority protection for the research facility." Meanwhile, on the jungle planet of Epsilon Eridani, Commander Kevin Foster and his Marines were in a desperate situation. Separated from their extraction ships, they had been fighting a guerrilla war against superior Valkyrie forces for 5 days. "Ammunition check," Kevin ordered as his team huddled in the ruins of a colony building. "Running low, sir," replied Sergeant Jake Martinez. "Maybe enough for one more firefight." Kevin nodded grimly. His original force of 40 had been reduced to 23. They had completed their mission, sabotaging a Valkyrie supply depot, but the cost had been high. "Command knows our position," he told his team. "We hold out until extraction." In his pocket, Kevin carried a small data chip recovered from the Valkyrie base. It contained information that confirmed Nickel's theory, detailed analysis of human heat signatures and misinterpreted meanings assigned to them. As night fell, Kevin watched the Valkyrie patrols through his thermal scope. They glowed with shifting patterns of heat that he now understood were a form of communication. "They're afraid of us," he realized suddenly. "Not just as enemies, but as an existential threat. They think we're communicating aggression with every breath." Back in the research facility, Nickel worked frantically as the battle raged above. Her team had constructed a prototype thermal transmitter designed to communicate peace in Valkyrie language. "Initial tests are promising," she told Lisa via hologram. "But we need to test it directly with Valkyrie subjects." Lisa's face was grim. "We've lost 12 more ships. The president is considering extreme measures. If this doesn't work—" "It will work," Nickel insisted. "It has to." The fate of 2 species now rested on understanding a fundamental difference in biology. As Nicole calibrated her device, she prayed they weren't already too late. The stealth shuttle cut silently through the upper atmosphere of the Valkyrie homeworld. Inside, Commander Kevin Foster checked his team's equipment one final time. The mission was simple but nearly impossible. Infiltrate the Valkyrie Central Communication Hub and implement Dr. Hartman's thermal translation system. Final approach, whispered the pilot, a young woman named Diane Reed. No detection so far. Kevin nodded to his team of 6 elite operators. Remember, we're not here for revenge. We're here to end this war. Communications specialist Grace Powell adjusted the compact device strapped to her chest. The thermal translator was the culmination of Dr. Hartman's work, humanity's best hope for establishing real communication with the Valkyrie. I've studied their patterns, Grace said quietly. If we can reach the central hub, I can broadcast a message they'll understand. The shuttle touched down in a dense forest 20 kilometers from their target. As the team disembarked, Kevin felt the strange gravity of the alien world, slightly lighter than Earth standard, but with a higher atmospheric pressure that made his movements feel sluggish. Move out, he ordered. Stealth Protocol Alpha. They advanced through the alien forest, their adaptive camouflage blending with the purple-tinged vegetation. Valkyrie structures loomed in the distance, organic-looking buildings that seemed to grow from the landscape rather than being constructed. First patrol approaching, warned Sergeant Ben Ortiz, the team's scout. 3 Valkyrie, standard formation. The team froze, activating their thermal dampening fields. The Valkyrie guards passed within meters, their iridescent skin shifting through patterns of blue and green. Kevin watched them through specialized goggles that revealed the complex heat signatures emanating from their bodies. They're discussing the war, Grace whispered, interpreting the patterns. They're afraid of us. For 5 hours, the team moved carefully through increasingly populated areas. Twice they had to disable Valkyrie sensors, and once they were forced to hide in a drainage channel as a military convoy passed overhead. As they reached the outskirts of the capital city, Kevin received an urgent communication from Captain Donovan. Commander, the situation has deteriorated. Lisa's voice crackled through his secure earpiece. The Valkyrie have launched a major offensive toward Earth. President Warren has authorized the use of the Sunfire weapon as a last resort. You have 6 hours to complete your mission before we're past the point of no return. Kevin's blood ran cold. The Sunfire weapon, a device capable of inducing a massive solar flare in a star, would devastate the Valkyrie homeworld. Understood, he replied. We're proceeding to the objective. The central communication hub rose before them, a towering spiral structure pulsing with bioluminescent light. Security was heavy, with dozens of Valkyrie guards patrolling its perimeter. We need a distraction, Kevin decided. Ortiz, Scott, set charges on the secondary power station. The rest of us will use the confusion to enter the hub. The plan worked initially. When the power station erupted in a controlled explosion, security forces rushed to investigate. Kevin's team slipped past the reduced perimeter guard and entered the hub through a maintenance access. Inside, they moved quickly through strange, organic corridors. Grace led them, following the increasing intensity of thermal signals. The broadcast chamber should be ahead, she whispered. They rounded a corner and found themselves in a vast circular room. At its center stood a pulsing crystalline structure that seemed to be the heart of the Valkyrie communication network. Perfect, Grace said, moving toward it. I can interface with this. As she began connecting her device, alarms suddenly blared. Heat patterns on the walls shifted to bright red. We've been detected, Kevin warned. Defensive positions. The first Valkyrie security forces entered the chamber, wielding organic weapons that pulsed with energy. Kevin's team returned fire, using non-lethal stun weapons where possible. I need 2 minutes, Grace shouted over the chaos. Lieutenant Dan Scott fell first, a Valkyrie energy blast catching him in the chest. Then Ortiz took a hit to the leg. We're running out of time, Kevin called to Grace. How much longer? Almost there, she replied, fingers flying over her equipment. The translation matrix is aligning. More Valkyrie forces poured into the chamber. A blast hit the wall near Grace, showering her with debris. "It's ready," she called. "But I need to be at the center console to broadcast." The console was now surrounded by Valkyrie guards. "Cover me," Kevin ordered, then turned to Grace. "When I move, you run for that console." Without waiting for an answer, he charged into the open, drawing fire from all directions. His team provided covering fire as Grace sprinted toward the console. A blast struck Kevin in the shoulder, spinning him around. Through pain-blurred vision, he saw Grace reach the console and activate the thermal translator. The device glowed brightly, emitting complex patterns of heat and light. Every Valkyrie in the room froze, their weapons lowering as they received the first truly understandable message from humanity. As Kevin slumped against a wall, blood seeping through his armor, he watched the Valkyrie respond with their own thermal patterns. Grace turned to him, her face showing wonder through her visor. "They're listening," she said. "They understand." President Olivia Warren stood on the observation deck of the UNS Defender, watching the swirling patterns of Earth's atmosphere below. The final Valkyrie attack fleet hung in space less than 1 million kilometers away, close enough to strike, but holding position. "Madam President," Admiral Jones approached, her uniform crisp despite the days of battle. "We're receiving a transmission from the Valkyrie flagship. They're requesting direct communication with you." Warren nodded. "Put it through." The holographic display shimmered, revealing the tall, elegant form of the Valkyrie Supreme Consensus Leader, Zithkor. The alien skin pulsed with complex patterns of blue and gold, patterns that Warren now understood conveyed calm and respect. "Human leader," Zithkor's translated voice echoed through the chamber. "We have received your thermal communication from our homeworld. For the first time, we truly understand each other." Warren stepped forward. "Then you understand that we never intended hostility. The death of our diplomat, Ethan Mercer, was based on a fundamental misunderstanding." "Yes," the alien acknowledged, skin patterns shifting to a regretful purple. "What we perceived as thermal aggression was merely your natural biological state. But you must understand, to us, your natural heat signatures appeared as threats of extinction." In the background, tactical displays showed both fleets maintaining position, weapons hot but not firing. The fragile ceasefire had held for 6 hours since Grace Powell had activated the thermal translator on the Valkyrie homeworld. "We have much to discuss," Warren said. "But first, I must know if our team on your world is safe." Zithkor's patterns shifted again. "The ones who brought understanding survive, though some are injured. They will be returned to you as a gesture of new beginnings." On the Valkyrie homeworld, Kevin Foster was being treated in a strange medical chamber. The glowing substance covering his wounds had stopped the bleeding almost instantly. Grace Powell sat nearby, still operating the thermal translator as Valkyrie scientists studied it with fascination. "You know," Kevin said weakly, "when I joined this mission, I never thought I'd end up in an alien hospital." Grace smiled. "When I joined the military, I never thought I'd be the first human to really talk with aliens." A Valkyrie healer approached, skin pulsing with gentle green patterns that the translator interpreted as concern and care. "Your body temperature indicates pain. I can adjust treatment." "Thank you," Kevin replied, watching as his words were converted into heat patterns. "This is better than fighting any day." Back on Earth, Captain Lisa Donovan supervised the stand-down of combat operations. The Intrepid's crew worked diligently, transitioning from war footing to peace, though wary eyes still watched the Valkyrie fleet. "Hard to believe it's over," Paul Wright said, joining her on the bridge. "Not over," Lisa corrected. "Just changing. We still lost good people because we couldn't communicate properly." The Artemis I appeared beside them. "Captain, I have completed analysis of all engagements. Human losses total 23 ships and approximately 4,000 personnel. Valkyrie losses are estimated at 19 vessels and 3,000 individuals." Lisa nodded grimly. Too many on both sides. 1 month later, a solemn ceremony took place in Geneva. Representatives of both species gathered to honor the dead and formalize a peace agreement. The massive chamber had been specially modified with thermal projectors to facilitate Valkyrie communication. Dr. Nickel Hartman stood with Grace Powell as they watched President Warren and Zithkor approach the signing table. "Your translator saved us all," Nickel said quietly. Grace shook her head. Not just the technology. It was understanding. Both sides had to want peace. The peace document was unique in human history, written in both standard text and thermal patterns that shifted and glowed on the specially designed paper. As Warren signed, she looked up at the Valkyrie leader. "Let this be remembered not as the war between our species, but as the moment we learned to truly see each other." Zithkor's skin glowed with solemn agreement as they added their mark to the document. From misunderstanding comes wisdom, if we are brave enough to seek it. In the audience, Kevin Foster watched, still bearing the scars of battle. Next to him sat a small hologram projector showing Ethan Mercer's image, the diplomat whose death had started the war, now honored as the first bridge between species. The ceremony concluded with a moment of silence, followed by the establishment of a joint scientific and cultural exchange program. The first ambassadors would be trained in both verbal and thermal communication. As humans and Valkyrie mingled cautiously after the ceremony, the universe watched two intelligent species take their first real steps toward understanding, a hard-won peace born from the ashes of conflict.